Okay, so your question is this. If I shop for a home without an agent, will I be able to get a better deal? I hear this all the time. Buyers say, well, if I'm unrepresented, then the seller doesn't have to pay a buyer agent commission and they can pass that savings on to me and I can get a better deal. Every time I hear this, I laugh to myself a little bit for a couple different reasons. One being, when was the last time you went to Walmart or Target or something like that, and you were buying something and you get to the register and you find out that, oh, it's on sale and you didn't know it. So you got this unexpected discount, a few bucks or whatever. And when you get to the cashier, upon further consideration of this windfall, you say, you know what, on second thought, just give that couple bucks to the total stranger behind me, because I'm cool like that and I don't really need the money. As charitable as you are, I'm sure you've probably never done that before, right? Now, if you're not willing to give a few bucks to a total stranger behind you that was a windfall at a cash register, why would a seller give thousands, maybe tens of thousands, you're hoping, of their hard-earned equity, which most sellers view as their life savings, by the way, to you, a total stranger, just because you don't have an agent? They wouldn't. Now, assuming the seller is actually going to save money by you not having an agent, which is a pretty rash assumption, as I'll explain in a minute, why would you get the savings and not the seller? If anyone's going to get the savings, it's going to be the seller. The seller's the one who's been earning that equity by paying on a mortgage for years, a decade maybe. The seller is the same person who's been checking the market on a regular basis and saying to their spouse, honey, look how much equity we have in our house now. It'll be awesome when we sell our house. Why are they going to give it to you, a stranger, when they know that you're going to pay market value for the home? Are they really supposed to believe that you, as a buyer who's finally found a house they want to make an offer on, that has everything that they're looking for, that's going to be the home that you're going to live in for the next 10 to 20 years, that you're really going to walk away from the home just because you can't get it for less than market value, that you can't get it for less than it's worth? They know you're not going to walk away. The seller knows you're going to pay market value for the home. That's really the definition of market value. Everyone in the market is willing to pay that value. Well, I take it back. I guess some sellers get lucky and are able to sell their home for more than market value. But who are they selling to for more than market value? Well, by and large, they sell them to buyers who are unrepresented. A buyer who is trying to save money by negotiating on their own behalf with a negotiating expert whom the seller has hired to negotiate on their behalf. Every seller that has their home listed on the MLS with a professional agent knows what their home is worth. They've run the comps over and over again. Many of them have even gone the extra mile and hired an independent appraisal for $300 or $400 just to make sure that they know what the value of their home is, so they don't sell it for less than that. And they know that you're going to pay market value for it. Now, up to this point, this whole discussion has been based on the assumption that the seller is actually going to save money if you don't have an agent representing you, when the truth is that in 82.6% of the time, according to last year's statistics, the seller's not going to save a penny if you're unrepresented. And the reason for that is something called a non-variable rate listing agreement. So there are two types of listing agreements. There's the non-variable rate listing agreement and the variable rate listing agreement. Variable in this context referring to the commissions being paid out. So in a non-variable rate listing agreement, the commissions do not vary. They're non-variable depending on whether or not the buyer has an agent. Again, the last 365 days of homes sold on the MLS, 82.6% of those sellers signed a non-variable rate listing agreement. And that's a real easy statistic to find. Any real estate agent can jump on the MLS and just click, all homes sold within the last year and toggle between the field that says variable rate and non-variable rate listing agreements. And it's a field that's mandatory that every listing agent has to disclose before they can upload the listing. So every home that's sold on the MLS, you can find out whether it's variable rate or non-variable rate. So the real question you have to ask yourself is is this: if roughly 83% of the sellers get no savings, and if I'm not represented and doesn't benefit my negotiating position at all, then, and the other fifth, less than a fifth of all the sellers on the MLS who have a variable rate listing agreement would still have to be crazy to give me their hard-earned equity, their life savings, when they know that I'm willing to pay market value, and you are, then why would I not be represented on my own? Why would I not have an industry professional looking after my needs, especially when I don't have to pay for it? You know, someone who does this for a living, who knows the contracts and the market better than anyone else. You know, the obvious answer is that when you really think about it, it doesn't make sense to do it on your own, especially when you have a real estate agent like myself who's willing to contribute a big chunk of their commissions, commissions you never would have been able to benefit from if you've been doing it on your own, toward your closing costs. And ultimately, those are the most important costs in the transaction. You know, they're the costs that come right out of your bank account that aren't wrapped up in your loan. You know, that's the money that buys new furniture, that buys the upgrades to your kitchen, new countertops, new lighting fixtures. That's the money that repaints the home or puts in new carpet or upgrades the landscaping, or that frankly just stays in your bank account, stays in your savings account. And perhaps that's the reason why 92.2% of all the buyers who bought a home on the MLS last year had an agent representing them. I mean, think about that number, 92.2%. That's a high number. Only 7.8% did not have an agent representing them. I mean, that statistic alone proves that most sellers have absolutely no expectation of saving money with an unrepresented buyer. And it's because of that non-variable rate listing agreement. If sellers really expected to save money if you didn't have an agent, they'd be holding out for unrepresented buyers. And the statistic would be far higher than a measly, 7.8%. If you're wondering how I got that statistic, it's another easy one to find on the MLS, because before an agent can change the status of a listing from active to under contract or to sold, they have to input the name of the buyer's agent, or if unrepresented, they have to check a box that says that the buyer was unrepresented. And only then can they move it from active to under contract or sold. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, Eric, that's all great, but I'm the buyer and the seller's the seller, and we can negotiate whatever the heck we want. Well, no, you can't, not when it comes to commissions being paid. The buyer can't change the terms and the seller can't change the terms of the listing agreement without the approval of the listing broker, who has absolutely no incentive to change the terms. And the only reason why I bring this up is because I've seen it enough times where an unrepresented buyer will try to put into their offer something about the commissions, about how because they're unrepresented, the seller can pay less commissions, and that's why the purchase price is such and such. And it always has to be stricken out of the contract, because an agreement between A and C cannot violate a contract between A and B. That's just basic contract law. Well, I hope this video has been informative and helpful to you. After watching it, I can guarantee you know more than most buyers and sellers on the subject. But if you've been a buyer who's been wanting to represent yourself, hopefully this hasn't been discouraging to you. It shouldn't be. At the end of the day, your goal really as a buyer is to get the best deal you can on a property and to save as much money as possible, and to save it where it counts the most. And this information will help you to do that. I think a closer consideration not only of human nature, the sellers in particular, but also understanding of how most listing agreements work, and knowing that there are greater benefits, both financially and as far as being helped out through the transaction itself, from using a really good buyer's agent. Well, my name is Eric Nelson, broker and owner of Ottoman Company Realty here in Utah, and I would love to be your buyer agent and help you actually save money on the purchase of your next home. Just feel free to give me a call at the number below, or visit my website at customizedlistings.com to learn how I can both help you save money on the selling of your home and on the purchase of your home. And of course, feel free to share it with your friends so I can help them save money too. Thanks.